Pakistani authorities are struggling to prevent the country's largest freshwater lake from overflowing and adding to the misery of millions affected by flooding. Workers have breached a dike of Lake Manchar to try to control the overflow, but that means nearby villages have been inundated while more densely populated areas have been spared for now.
Pakistan's largest freshwater lake keeps getting bigger. Fed by months of rain, Lake Manchar in southern Pakistan is close to overflowing, putting hundreds of thousands of people in the area at risk.
If breach occurs over here, so whole Seven city, it will be down. So the situation is tough. We are trying to contain it. We're fighting since last 48 hours.
Engineers made a difficult decision to cut into an embankment to direct the flood away from the most populated areas and flood dozens of nearby villages instead. Authorities say the emergency breach has already displaced 100,000 people, but local reporting suggests the number could be much higher. Many who fled say they haven't received any help from the government. When the water breached the lake, we got scared and left our village and belongings. We took our children and ran and came here. We arrived at 2 in the morning, and it's been 3 days and nobody's come to help us. Most of us are staying under the open sky. On their own and in harm's way, and no one knows for how long. Living in makeshift camps on higher ground, the displaced face a range of health risks, such as water-borne and skin diseases, say experts.
The children miss their home because there's no replacement for your home. There is no peace. There are a lot of mosquitoes here and it's very hot. We've asked for an electric fan, but that's impossible. The children's education has been stopped too. Getting food is also very difficult. We can't even cook because there's water everywhere.
The decision to divert the floodwaters has spared the larger cities near Lake Manchar for now, but at great human cost elsewhere. But with more rain expected to fall this month, Pakistan's disastrous summer might not be over yet.
Let's bring in Andresh Lagari here. He is with the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. He joins us from Murtaza in Pakistan's southeastern Sindh province. Thanks for taking time to join us. Now, you've been touring areas impacted by the floods. Describe the situation for us.
Well, thank you, Terry. I have been in 3 districts out of the many affected in this province right now, which is the most affected province of the country. I have seen hundreds and thousands of people on the roadsides, on wherever I go, whichever township I visit. It's water on both sides of the road, and it's just people sitting on the roadside waiting for help. There is, of course, there are certain camps that have been set up. There are camps, but they're filled. There are no more capacity in those camps, so more camps are still being set up. A lot of work is being done, but there is still so much more to be done. And I see hundreds and hundreds of children without food, without clean water. There is these stagnant floodwater lakes, as I've been calling them, around the province, and somewhere they're 6 feet deep, somewhere they're 5 feet, and in cities where you've just where I just mentioned the Manchar Lake, the city surrounding the Manchar Lake, like Manchar and so many other cities, are entirely drowned, and there is danger looming. So what we see now is just women and children who are waiting for whatever they can get: food, nutrition, health-related services. Pregnant women are still waiting for any services, and there are men and families and communities who are in the camps, on the roadside. Whatever is coming their way, they're just using it.
Now, your organization specializes in helping children in these situations. They're among the most vulnerable. Are they getting the help they need for the most part?
Well, the people, the organizations, whoever are on ground, they're trying their best. UNICEF is also trying our best. We have brought in just 2 days ago. We brought in 32 metric tons of aid through a chartered flight that is now handed over to the government. It's going to the people. We are trying more to get more aid and more supplies. It's more about supplies right now, so that we can also get those supplies into the hands of the people who are most in need. But as I said, it's just, I mean, the effort is gradually reaching as many people as it can reach, and there are so many people out there still on the move, still stranded in the flooded areas. So they're still hard to reach. So we need more help. Yeah.
Now, officials say a third of the country has been flooded. Over 1,300 people are confirmed dead, millions of homes destroyed. Do you think Pakistan will ever be the same?
It's going to be a difficult journey for this country. It's going to take years to come back to at least even the point where we were before this flood. And even that was not an entirely ideal point, of course, in terms of the health system, in terms of so many things, challenges for children, women, I can speak for. It's just that, I mean, it's definitely not going to be the same for this country. But this is a country of resilient people. The volunteer effort has been great, and the support that the global community is providing is good right now, but more is needed. But yes, absolutely, it is going to be a difficult time coming for Pakistan.
Andrish Legari with UNICEF in Sindh province, Pakistan. Thank you so much.
While the rain has stopped in some parts of the country, the threats posed by the floods haven't. I asked Arif Jabbar Khan of the charity group Water Aid about the biggest risks for people in the affected areas.
Well, obviously the short-term needs, as was shown by your report, is around shelter and food. But most importantly, I think water and sanitation and hygiene products are very much in demand, because there is a risk of diseases. In fact, we have seen areas where the number of waterborne diseases, malaria, diarrhea, has gone up tremendously. But I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, because we are also looking at some medium-term and long-term issues that these people are going to face, that even once the flood water recedes, the water sanitation systems will be contaminated, and people, if they are not decontaminated, if they use this, then the risks will be much higher. But also, I think from an economic terms, these people are dependent on agriculture for their livelihoods, especially the rural people. And in a few weeks' time, the winter cropping time will come up, and if they don't crop on time, we are looking at medium-term food security issues as well.
Yeah, that food security, definitely an issue. But if we go back to the healthcare, Pakistan's healthcare system was already overstretched and underfunded before the floods hit. Are people going to be able to get the help that they need?
Yeah, well, we've just come out of the COVID. We have issues with polio. So yes, and even whatever infrastructure we had, that has also been destroyed. I was looking at, some of the reports which talked about health, health centers. I mean, I visited some areas where the local hospitals have 2 feet of water in it. So even whatever services we had, that has been affected by it as well. So yes, a chronic issue has now been exacerbated by this flood as well.
Is Pakistan getting enough help from the international community?
No, I think it's far less than what is needed on the ground. We are now weeks into the flood situation, but the resources are just trickling in. Government is trying to establish coordination mechanisms, and these are being at the local level as well as provincial, national level. But this picture we are seeing on the ground is that yes, the support from the international community in the short term is low, but also I think in the recovery and rehabilitation phase, it'll take a long time for the country to come out of it. So there are those aspects as well, that in the short term we need support, but also in the medium and long term a lot of support will be needed by the government as well as by the people.
I wanted to ask you about that, the sheer scale of this disaster. How long will it take, or will Pakistan be able to recover from this?
Well, we did recover, first from 2005 earthquake, and then 2010 floods, and then after 2010 we had floods in 11 and 12 as well, and even some communities are still recovering from that. This is going to be actually a long haul, and what we would expect the international community is not just to look at the short-term support now in terms of response and recovery, but also in the long run. How can the people and government of Pakistan be supported? For example, through a lot of our budgets go into debt servicing, so donors should be able to come forward and at least take out the interest or restructure the debt that Pakistan owes to those donors. And this happened in COVID, so we had precedents. And I think whatever resources that can be spared now with for the government and people to be able to respond and also to be able to support in rehabilitation will be very useful. And I'm talking about next 5-6 years. It'll take at least to come back to some level of normalcy for us.
Long road ahead. Arif Jabbar Khan, Country Director of WaterAid, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.